Your legs are trying to tell you something, and most people over 60 are completely ignoring the warning signs. Here's a fact that might shock you. Leg cramps affect up to 70% of adults over 50, and the frequency doubles every decade after that. But here's what they don't tell you in those brief doctor visits. These aren't just random muscle spasms. Your legs are actually the canary in the coal mine for 3 critical vitamin deficiencies that can cascade into far more serious problems than just nighttime pain. What's even more concerning is that standard blood work often misses these deficiencies entirely. The reference ranges were established decades ago using younger populations, and they're failing older adults in dangerous ways. While you're told your levels are normal, your muscles are literally starving for nutrients they can't properly absorb anymore. Now I'm going to share 3 specific vitamins that can stop leg cramps in their tracks. But here's the kicker. The third one on this list is something most people never expect. It doesn't just prevent cramps, it actually reverses a type of muscle damage that starts happening in your 60s. Damage that makes every step feel heavier and every staircase feel like a mountain. And the first vitamin, well, it's probably sitting in your medicine cabinet right now, but you're taking it completely wrong. Before we dive deep into these 3 game changers, I'm curious. Drop a comment and let me know your age and where you're watching from. And be honest, how often do leg cramps wake you up at night? Once a week, every few nights. I want to understand what you're dealing with. The truth is, your legs weaken first because they're the farthest from your heart and they carry the heaviest load. When your body starts rationing nutrients, it's your leg muscles that get shortchanged. Think of it like a city during a power shortage. The downtown core stays lit, but the suburbs go dark first. Your heart and brain get priority. Your legs get whatever's left over. Here's what happens in your 60s that changes everything. Your stomach produces less acid, which means you can't break down and absorb nutrients like you used to. Your kidneys become less efficient at holding onto the minerals your muscles need. And your skin, believe it or not, becomes terrible at making one crucial vitamin that controls how your muscles fire. Let me start with the vitamin that's probably causing your cramps right now. Even though your doctor says your levels are fine, magnesium is the master mineral for muscle relaxation. But here's the problem. Standard blood tests measure magnesium in your serum, which represents less than 1% of your body's total magnesium. It's like checking the water level in a swimming pool by looking at the droplets on the diving board. Your muscles could be desperately low while your blood test looks perfect. Why does this matter so much for people over 60? Magnesium controls over 300 enzyme reactions in your body, including the ones that tell your muscles when to contract and when to relax. Without enough magnesium, your muscles get stuck in the contraction phase. That's your cramp. Research from major medical centers shows that muscle magnesium levels can drop by 15 to 20% in healthy older adults, even when blood levels appear normal. The mechanism is straightforward. As you age, your cells become less efficient at pumping magnesium where it needs to go. Let me tell you about Helen, 73, a retired teacher from Phoenix. She came to me after months of leg cramps that hit every night around 3 in the morning. She'd tried everything: stretching, heating pads, even prescription muscle relaxers that left her groggy the next day. Her blood work showed normal magnesium levels, so her doctor dismissed the connection. I had Helen switch to a specific form of magnesium that actually gets into muscle cells. Within 2 weeks, her nighttime cramps dropped from 7 nights a week to maybe once or twice. Within a month, they were completely gone. She told me she felt like she'd gotten her sleep back. Here's the protocol that worked for Helen and hundreds of others. You need magnesium glycinate, not magnesium oxide or citrate. Glycinate is bound to the amino acid glycine, which helps it cross cell membranes and actually reach your muscles. Start with 200 milligrams taken 30 minutes before bed. The glycine has a mild calming effect that can improve sleep quality too. If you've been taking magnesium oxide, those big chalky tablets from the pharmacy, you're probably wasting your money. Magnesium oxide has terrible absorption rates. Maybe 10% gets used. Most of it just causes loose stools and gets flushed away. Magnesium glycinate absorbs at 4 times the rate. Take it with a small amount of food to prevent any stomach upset, but avoid dairy or calcium supplements within 2 hours. Calcium and magnesium compete for absorption, and calcium usually wins in older adults because stomach acid levels are lower. But here's where it gets interesting. Magnesium deficiency doesn't just cause leg cramps. It sets up a cascade that makes the second vitamin deficiency even worse. Vitamin D, the vitamin your skin used to make effortlessly, but that factory has essentially shut down by your 60s. Here's why this matters for your legs specifically. Vitamin D doesn't just support bone health. It controls muscle strength, balance, and something called neuromuscular function. That's the communication between your nerves and muscles. When vitamin D levels drop, the messages from your brain to your leg muscles become fuzzy and delayed. Your muscles don't contract as efficiently, they don't relax completely, and they become prone to sudden, painful spasms. It's like trying to have a phone conversation with a bad connection. Studies consistently show that vitamin D deficiency is linked to increased fall risk, muscle weakness, and yes, muscle cramps in older adults. Some analyses suggest that up to 60% of adults over 70 have inadequate vitamin D levels. Even in sunny climates, the mechanism is more complex than most people realize. Vitamin D gets converted in your kidneys to its active form, calcitriol. Calcitriol then binds to receptors inside your muscle cells and controls the production of proteins essential for muscle contraction and relaxation. Without adequate vitamin D, your muscles literally can't function properly. Meet Robert, 68, a retired electrician from Seattle. Robert prided himself on staying active, but he started noticing his legs felt heavy during his morning walks. Worse, he'd get these sudden, intense cramps in his calves that would drop him to his knees. His wife was getting worried about his balance. His vitamin D level came back at 18 nanograms per milliliter. Technically not deficient according to old standards, but far below optimal for muscle function. We brought him up to 60 nanograms per milliliter in a specific dosing strategy, and within 6 weeks, Robert told me his legs felt 20 years younger. Here's the vitamin D protocol that works. Most people over 60 need between 2,000 and 4,000 international units daily to maintain optimal levels. But here's the crucial part. You need to take it with vitamin K2 and magnesium. Remember that magnesium from earlier. Vitamin D can't be converted to its active form without adequate magnesium. It's a partnership. Vitamin K directs calcium into your bones and teeth instead of your arteries and soft tissues. This becomes critical when you're supplementing with higher doses of vitamin D because vitamin D increases calcium absorption. You want that calcium in the right places. Take your vitamin D with a meal that contains some fat. Vitamin D is fat soluble, so absorption improves significantly with dietary fat. Even a tablespoon of olive oil or a handful of nuts makes a difference, but get your levels checked every 3 to 6 months, especially when you're first optimizing. The sweet spot for muscle function appears to be between 50 and 80 nanograms per milliliter. Too little and your muscles stay weak and cramping. Too much and you risk calcium buildup in tissues where it doesn't belong. Now here's where most people stop, thinking they've solved the problem with magnesium and vitamin D, but there's a third vitamin deficiency that's flying completely under the radar, and it's probably the most important one for preventing the muscle wasting that accelerates after 60. Vitamin B1, also called thiamine, is the vitamin that turns your food into energy your muscles can actually use. But here's what's shocking. Up to 30% of people over 65 are deficient in B1, and most of them have no idea because the symptoms are so easily dismissed as normal aging. B1 deficiency causes something called peripheral neuropathy. That's damage to the nerves that control your muscles, especially in your legs and feet. Early symptoms include muscle cramps, leg weakness, and a burning or tingling sensation. Sound familiar? Most people blame it on getting older or may be sitting too much. But here's the mechanism that will blow your mind. Every single muscle contraction in your body requires energy in the form of ATP. Think of ATP as the currency your muscles spend to do work. B1 is essential for converting glucose into ATP. Without enough B1, your muscles are essentially broke. They can't generate the energy needed for smooth, coordinated contractions. Research from neurological centers shows that even mild B1 deficiency can cause muscle fatigue, cramping, and weakness long before more obvious symptoms appear. The scary part: B1 stores in your body depleted within just 2 to 3 weeks if intake drops to low. Why are so many older adults deficient? Several reasons. First, B1 is easily destroyed by heat and processing, so the modern diet provides less than previous generations got. Second, certain medications commonly prescribed to seniors, including diuretics and proton pump inhibitors for acid reflux, interfere with B1 absorption. Third, alcohol consumption, even moderate amounts, depletes B1 rapidly. Let me share Margaret's story. Margaret, 71, was a retired nurse from Atlanta who knew her way around health issues. She started experiencing weakness in her legs that made her feel unsteady, especially when getting up from chairs. She also had cramping in her feet and calves that seemed to happen randomly throughout the day. Her doctor ran the usual tests: blood sugar, thyroid, vitamin D, even MRI scans looking for nerve compression. Everything came back normal or only slightly off. That's when we checked her B1 levels using a more sensitive test than the standard one. Her B1 was severely low, despite what appeared to be a healthy diet. Turns out she'd been taking a proton pump inhibitor for acid reflux for 3 years, and it had gradually depleted her B1 stores. We corrected the deficiency with a specific form of B1 that bypasses absorption problems, and within a month, Margaret felt like she'd gotten her strength back. Here's the B1 protocol that restored Margaret's leg strength. She needed benfotiamine, a fat-soluble form of B1 that gets into tissues much better than regular thiamine. We started with 150 milligrams twice daily with meals. Regular thiamine hydrochloride, the form in most B-complex vitamins, has poor bioavailability. Your intestines can only absorb small amounts at a time, and much of it gets destroyed by enzymes before it reaches your cells. Benfotiamine sidesteps these problems and delivers higher tissue levels. The timing matters too. B1 works best when taken with other B vitamins, especially B6 and B12, because they work as a team in energy production. But avoid taking it with coffee or tea, because tannins can interfere with absorption. If you're taking any medications for blood pressure, diabetes, or acid reflux, you're at higher risk for B1 depletion. Even common over-the-counter antacids can interfere with B vitamin absorption if used regularly. Now here's something most people don't realize about B1. It doesn't just prevent muscle cramps and weakness. It actually protects your nerves from the kind of damage that makes every step painful as you get older. Think of B1 as insulation for your nerve wires. Without enough, the wires start to fray and short circuit. Let me pause here for a moment and ask you to try something. Stand up and balance on one foot for 10 seconds. Don't hold onto anything. Can you do it without wobbling or grabbing for support? If not, your leg strength and neuromuscular coordination might be compromised already. The connection between these 3 vitamins goes deeper than just preventing cramps. They work together to maintain what researchers call neuromuscular integrity. That's the seamless communication between your brain, nerves, and muscles that keeps you stable, strong, and coordinated. Magnesium ensures your muscles can relax after contracting. Vitamin D keeps the communication channels between nerves and muscles clear and responsive. B1 provides the energy currency that powers every muscle movement. Remove any one of these, and the whole system starts to break down. But here's what's really insidious about these deficiencies. They develop gradually, often over years. You might not notice the subtle loss of strength or the occasional cramp at first. Your body adapts by avoiding activities that challenge weak muscles. You take the elevator instead of stairs. You hold the handrail tighter. You sit down more often. This adaptation creates a downward spiral. The less you challenge your muscles, the weaker they become. The weaker they become, the more likely they are to cramp and fail you when you need them most. Before you know it, your world has gotten smaller and your confidence has shrunk along with your muscle mass. Here's the good news. This process is reversible, but you need all three vitamins working together, and you need to address the absorption issues that develop as you age. Let's talk about absorption, because this is where most supplement strategies fail. Your 60-year-old digestive system is not your 30-year-old digestive system. Stomach acid production drops significantly, which means you can't break down and absorb nutrients like you used to. The lining of your small intestine becomes less efficient at transporting vitamins into your bloodstream. This is why the specific forms of these vitamins matter so much. Magnesium glycinate instead of magnesium oxide. Benfotiamine instead of regular thiamine. Vitamin D3 with K2 and taken with fat instead of the basic D to tablets. But there's another factor most people ignore. Timing. Your body has natural rhythms for nutrient absorption and utilization. Take advantage of these rhythms and your supplements work better. Fight against them and you're wasting money. Magnesium works best in the evening because it has calming effects that support sleep quality. Poor sleep actually worsens muscle tension and increases cramp frequency, so the timing creates a positive feedback loop. Vitamin D should be taken in the morning with breakfast. There's some evidence that taking vitamin D too late in the day can interfere with melatonin production and disrupt sleep patterns. Since we want good sleep for muscle recovery, morning dosing makes sense. B1 can be taken anytime, but works best with other B vitamins and away from coffee or tea. If you take a B complex, morning with breakfast is ideal because B vitamins support energy production throughout the day. Now let me address the elephant in the room: cost. I know supplements can get expensive, especially when you're on a fixed income, but consider the alternative costs: emergency room visits for falls, physical therapy for balance problems, prescription medications for chronic pain, the loss of independence when weak legs limit your activities, a 3-month supply of high-quality magnesium glycinate, vitamin D3 with K2, and benfotiamine costs less than most people spend on cable television. And unlike cable, these supplements can literally change your quality of life and potentially extend your healthy years. But here's what I always tell people: don't just throw supplements at the problem and hope for the best. Address the root causes of poor absorption too. That means optimizing stomach acid if you're taking antacids regularly. It means spacing supplements away from medications that interfere with absorption. It means including foods that enhance nutrient uptake. Let me give you some practical strategies that can double or triple the effectiveness of your vitamin regimen. First, consider digestive enzymes if you have frequent bloating, gas, or indigestion. These symptoms often indicate that you're not breaking down food completely, which means you're not extracting nutrients sufficiently either. A broad-spectrum digestive enzyme taken with meals can make a remarkable difference. Second, add fermented foods to your diet. Sauerkraut, kefir, yogurt with live cultures, even fermented vegetables provide beneficial bacteria that enhance nutrient absorption in your intestines. The research on this is compelling. People with healthier gut bacteria absorb significantly more vitamins and minerals from both food and supplements. Third, stay hydrated, but don't overdo it around meal times. Drinking large amounts of liquid with meals dilutes stomach acid and digestive enzymes. Sip water during meals, but do your heavy hydrating between meals. Fourth, walk after eating. Even a gentle 10-minute walk helps with digestion and nutrient absorption. Movement stimulates blood flow to your digestive organs and helps nutrients get distributed throughout your body more effectively. Now let's talk about what you can expect when you get these 3 vitamins optimized. Don't expect overnight miracles, but do expect steady improvement over weeks and months. Most people notice that nighttime leg cramps start to decrease within the first 2 weeks of proper magnesium supplementation. Sleep quality often improves too, because you're not being awakened by painful spasms. Vitamin D benefits take longer to develop, usually 4 to 8 weeks, because it takes time to build up tissue stores and for your muscles to start producing the proteins they need for optimal function. But when it kicks in, people often describe feeling stronger and more stable on their feet. B1 improvements can be dramatic once tissue levels normalize, usually within 3 to 6 weeks. People frequently report that their legs feel less heavy and tired. Walking distances that used to exhaust them become comfortable again. But here's the most important point. These improvements compound over time. Better sleep from reduced cramps leads to better muscle recovery. Improved muscle function leads to more confidence in movement. More movement leads to better circulation and nutrient delivery. The positive spiral builds on itself. I want to share one more story that illustrates this perfectly. James, 74, was a retired truck driver from Denver who'd been dealing with progressively worse leg problems for 3 years. Started with occasional cramps, but by the time I met him, he was using a walker and afraid to leave the house alone. His wife brought him in because she was worried about his rapid decline. James had seen multiple doctors, tried physical therapy, even considered surgery for what one specialist thought might be spinal stenosis. Nothing helped. We ran comprehensive testing and found severe deficiencies in all 3 vitamins, magnesium, vitamin D, and B1. His absorption was compromised by medications and years of poor stomach acid production. We corrected the deficiencies using the protocols I've outlined, addressed his digestive issues, and worked on rebuilding his confidence in his legs. 12 weeks later, James walked into my office without his walker. He told me he'd driven himself to the appointment, something he hadn't done in over a year. His wife said she had her husband back. James's transformation wasn't just about supplements. It was about restoring the biological foundation his muscles needed to function properly, then giving them the chance to rebuild strength and coordination. This brings up an important point about expectations. Correcting vitamin deficiencies will restore normal muscle function, but it won't automatically rebuild muscle mass lost 2 years of inactivity. For that, you need progressive resistance exercise appropriate for your age and condition. But here's the beauty of addressing the nutritional foundation first. When your muscles can contract and relax normally, when they have the energy they need to function, exercise becomes possible again. Movements that once seemed impossible become merely challenging. I always recommend that people start with these nutritional corrections, then gradually add movement and resistance training as their legs get stronger and more reliable. The vitamins create the platform for improvement. Exercise builds on that platform. Let's talk about safety, because I know some of you are wondering about interactions and side effects. Magnesium is generally very safe, but start with lower doses if you have kidney problems or take medications for heart rhythm abnormalities. Too much magnesium can cause loose stools, which is actually your body's way of self-regulating. Back down the dose if this happens. Vitamin D can interact with certain medications, especially thiazide diuretics and calcium channel blockers. If you take these medications, work with your doctor to monitor calcium levels when optimizing vitamin D. The goal is coordination, not confrontation with your medical team. B1 is water-soluble and excess amounts are easily excreted, so toxicity is extremely rare. However, if you have diabetes, be aware that correcting B1 deficiency can improve glucose metabolism, which might require medication adjustments. Always inform your doctors about supplements you're taking, especially if you take prescription medications. Most physicians appreciate patients who take responsibility for their nutritional health, and many are becoming more aware of how common these deficiencies are in older adults. Here's something else to consider. Geographic location affects your risk for these deficiencies. If you live in northern climates with limited sun exposure, vitamin D deficiency is almost inevitable without supplementation. If you live in areas with magnesium-depleted soil, you're more likely to be magnesium deficient even with a good diet. Certain life circumstances also increase your risk. If you've had gastric surgery, take multiple medications, or have chronic digestive issues, you're at higher risk for all three deficiencies. If you're a vegetarian or have limited protein intake, B1 deficiency becomes more likely. The point is, these aren't rare deficiencies that only affect obviously sick people. They're common problems that develop gradually and affect millions of older adults who consider themselves relatively healthy. Let me give you a simple way to think about this. Your legs are like the foundation of a house. If the foundation starts to weaken, the whole structure becomes unstable. You can paint the walls and fix the roof. But if you don't address the foundation, the problems will only get worse. These three vitamins are like the concrete, rebar, and waterproofing that keep your muscular foundation strong. Neglect any one of them, and cracks start to appear. Address all three properly, and you can maintain structural integrity for decades. Now I want to shift gears and talk about some additional strategies that can amplify the benefits of these vitamins. Heat and cold therapy can significantly improve muscle function and reduce cramps when used strategically. Heat increases blood flow and helps deliver nutrients to your muscles. Cold reduces inflammation and can help reset overactive nerve signals that contribute to cramping. Try this protocol. After taking your evening magnesium, spend 10 to 15 minutes with a heating pad on your calves or the muscles that cramp most often. The warmth will enhance blood flow just as the magnesium is reaching peak absorption. In the morning, after your shower, try 30 seconds of cool water on your legs. Not ice cold, just comfortably cool. This helps stimulate circulation and can improve the responsiveness of the nerve-muscle connections we're trying to optimize with vitamin D. Compression garments can also help, especially if you have circulation issues. Graduated compression socks or sleeves improve blood flow and can reduce the pooling of fluid that sometimes contributes to muscle cramps. They're particularly helpful during long periods of sitting or standing. Hydration strategy matters more than most people realize. Dehydration contributes to muscle cramps, but so does drinking too much water without adequate electrolytes. The key is balanced hydration with proper mineral content. Here's a simple hydration protocol. Upon waking, drink 8 ounces of water with a pinch of sea salt and a squeeze of lemon. The salt provides sodium and trace minerals. The lemon provides potassium and enhances mineral absorption. This rehydrates you properly after the overnight fast. Throughout the day, sip water steadily rather than drinking large amounts all at once. Your kidneys can only process about 8 ounces per hour effectively. Drinking more than that just increases urination without improving hydration. If you exercise or spend time in hot weather, add a quarter teaspoon of sea salt to 20 ounces of water. This prevents the dilution of electrolytes that can trigger cramping even when you're well hydrated with plain water. Sleep position can also affect leg cramps. Sleeping with your feet slightly elevated improves circulation and reduces the pooling of fluid that can contribute to nighttime cramps. A small pillow under your ankles is usually sufficient. Avoid pointing your toes downward for extended periods, whether you're sleeping or sitting. This position shortens your calf muscles and makes them more prone to cramping. Keep your feet in a neutral position or slightly flexed toward your shins. Now let's address some common mistakes people make when trying to resolve leg problems with vitamins. Mistake number 1 is taking the wrong forms of these nutrients. I can't stress this enough. Magnesium oxide, vitamin D2, and regular thiamine have poor absorption rates in older adults. You might be taking what appears to be adequate doses, but getting very little benefit. Mistake number 2 is not addressing absorption issues. Taking vitamins on an empty stomach, with interfering substances, or without the cofactors needed for utilization wastes money and delays results. Mistake number 3 is expecting immediate results and giving up too soon. Nutritional deficiencies develop over months or years. Correcting them takes weeks to months. Be patient and consistent. Mistake number 4 is not getting proper testing to confirm deficiencies and monitor progress. Guessing at your vitamin levels is like driving at night without headlights. You might reach your destination, but you'll take longer and risk crash along the way. Mistake number 5 is trying to address muscle problems with vitamins alone while ignoring other factors like medication side effects, poor sleep, chronic stress, or underlying medical conditions that could be contributing to the symptoms. The most successful people take a comprehensive approach. They optimize their vitamin status, address absorption issues, improve sleep quality, manage stress, and gradually increase appropriate physical activity. Each element supports the others. Let me give you a timeline of what to expect when you do this right. Week 1 to 2. Start taking the proper forms of magnesium, vitamin D, and B1. You might notice slight improvements in sleep quality and a reduction in the frequency of nighttime cramps. Week 3 to 4. Cramps should be noticeably less frequent and less severe. You might feel like your legs have slightly more energy during daily activities. Week 6 to 8. Most people report that their legs feel stronger and more stable. Walking distances that used to be tiring become more comfortable. Balance and coordination may start to improve. Week 10 to 12. Optimal tissue levels of all 3 vitamins should be achieved. This is when people often report feeling like they've turned back the clock on their leg health. Strength, endurance, and confidence in movement continue to improve month 4 to 6, with consistent supplementation and gradually increased activity. Most people reach a new baseline of leg function that's significantly better than where they started. But remember, this timeline assumes you're addressing absorption issues and taking the right forms of these vitamins. If you use cheap, poorly absorbed forms or ignore digestive problems, your timeline could be much longer, or you might see minimal benefits. Here's something else that's important to understand. These vitamins don't just prevent leg problems. They support overall healthy aging in ways that might surprise you. Adequate magnesium supports heart rhythm, blood pressure regulation, and bone health. Optimal vitamin D supports immune function, mood, and cognitive health. Sufficient B1 supports nervous system health, energy production, and potentially reduces the risk of complications from diabetes. So, when you're investing in your leg health, you're actually investing in multiple aspects of healthy aging. The benefits extend far beyond just preventing cramps and weakness. I want to address one more important topic: what to do if these vitamins don't solve your leg problems completely. If you've optimized all 3 vitamins, addressed absorption issues, and still have significant leg weakness, cramps, or balance problems, there could be other underlying causes that need attention. Thyroid dysfunction can cause muscle weakness and cramps. Diabetes can damage nerves and affect muscle function. Kidney disease can interfere with mineral balance. Certain autoimmune conditions can affect muscle and nerve health. Medications can also be culprits. Statins sometimes cause muscle pain and weakness. Diuretics can deplete electrolytes. Beta blockers can reduce circulation to extremities. If your leg problems started after beginning a new medication, discuss this with your doctor. The point is, these 3 vitamins address the most common nutritional causes of leg problems in older adults. But they're not a panacea for every possible cause. Use them as your foundation, but don't ignore other potential factors if problems persist. Now let me give you a practical shopping list and dosing summary to make this actionable. For magnesium, look for magnesium glycinate or magnesium bisglycinate on the label. Avoid magnesium oxide. Start with 200 milligrams 30 minutes before bed. Take it with a small amount of food if it causes stomach upset. For vitamin D, get vitamin D3, not D2. Look for products that include vitamin K2, ideally the MK7 form. Start with 2,000 international units daily with breakfast or your largest meal of the day. Get your blood level checked after 3 months and adjust the dose to achieve 50 to 80 nanograms per milliliter. For B1, look for benfotiamine, not thiamine hydrochloride. Start with 150 milligrams twice daily with meals. Consider taking it as part of a high-quality B complex that includes adequate amounts of B6 and B12. If budget is a concern, prioritize them in this order. Start with magnesium glycinate because it often provides the quickest relief from cramps. Add vitamin D3 with K to next, because the deficiency is so common and the benefits extend beyond just leg health. Add dibenzofuscin third, because B1 deficiency is less common but can be dramatic when present. Quality matters with supplements. Look for third-party tested products that verify purity and potency. Avoid bargain brands that might contain fillers, artificial colors, or inadequate amounts of active ingredients. Store your supplements properly. Heat, light, and moisture can degrade vitamins over time. Keep them in a cool, dry place, and don't store them in bathroom medicine cabinets where humidity fluctuates. Check expiration dates regularly. Expired vitamins aren't dangerous, but they lose potency and become less effective over time. Now let's talk about food sources of these vitamins, because supplements work best when combined with a nutrient-dense diet. Good food sources of magnesium include dark leafy greens, nuts, seeds, fish, and dark chocolate. But remember, soil depletion has reduced the magnesium content of many foods compared to previous generations, and absorption decreases with age. Vitamin D is difficult to get from food alone. Fatty fish like salmon and mackerel provide some, as do fortified dairy products and egg yolks from pasture-raised hens. But for most people over 60, especially those with limited sun exposure, supplementation is necessary to achieve optimal levels. B1-rich foods include whole grains, legumes, nuts, seeds, and pork. But processing and cooking reduce B1 content significantly, and certain medications and alcohol can increase your requirements beyond what's realistic to get from food alone. The combination of food sources plus targeted supplementation gives you the best chance of maintaining optimal levels throughout your senior years. Let me share one final story that brings all of this together. Patricia, 69, was a retired librarian from Boston who'd always been active and independent. Over the course of 2 years, she gradually developed severe leg cramps that would strike without warning, sometimes dropping her to the floor in pain. She also noticed that her legs felt weak and unreliable, especially when going up and down stairs. Her primary care doctor ran basic blood work and found nothing obviously wrong. A neurologist did nerve conduction studies that showed some minor abnormalities, but nothing that explained her symptoms clearly. A rheumatologist tested for autoimmune conditions with negative results. Patricia was frustrated and scared. She'd gone from someone who walked 3 miles every morning to someone who was afraid to leave the house alone because she never knew when her legs might fail her. That's when her daughter convinced her to take a comprehensive nutritional approach. We tested for the 3 key vitamins and found deficiencies in all of them. Patricia's magnesium was low normal but inadequate for her needs. Her vitamin D was severely deficient at 14 nanograms per milliliter. Her B1 was borderline low, likely due to a combination of poor absorption and increased needs. We implemented the protocols I've described, addressed her digestive issues with enzymes and probiotics, and gradually encouraged her to resume gentle activity as her legs got stronger. The transformation was remarkable. Within 6 weeks, Patricia's nighttime cramps had virtually disappeared. Within 3 months, she felt confident enough to resume her morning walks, starting with just 15 minutes and gradually building back up. Within 6 months, she was walking her original 3-mile route and feeling stronger than she had in years. Patricia's story illustrates something crucial. The solution to age-related leg problems isn't necessarily complex, but it requires the right approach applied consistently over time. Address the nutritional foundation, support optimal absorption, and give your body time to rebuild and recover. Most importantly, don't accept leg weakness, cramps, and instability as inevitable parts of aging. They're often signs of correctable problems, not irreversible decline. Your legs have carried you through life. They deserve the nutritional support they need to carry you through your golden years with strength, stability, and confidence. The 3 vitamins we've discussed: magnesium glycinate, vitamin D3 with K2, and benfotiamine, can be game changers for leg health when used properly. But remember, they work best as part of a comprehensive approach that includes proper absorption support, appropriate physical activity, and attention to overall health. Start where you are. Use what you have. Do what you can. Your future self will thank you for taking action today instead of waiting for problems to get worse. Which of these 3 vitamins do you think might be missing from your routine? And what's the first step you'll take to address it? Share your thoughts in the comments below.